Hey, how's it going? So, we've heard about all these different systems of how to play guitar, how to learn the fretboard, how to learn scales, exercises, things like that. So, why don't we just work on our own system of putting together the information that we need to learn how to play scales, to learn how chords work using one of these and one of these. So, this will get us into some actual manual ways of learning how to play the guitar. So, I want to take you right through some of those right now. Okay, so what is this? So we got a piano keyboard here, which I'm going to label in just a second. But the main thing that I want to show you is the guitar fretboard. Okay, so this is the way it's laid out. We have our low string right here. So if you sit behind your guitar and you look directly down to your guitar, this is the thick string you're going to see first when you look at your guitar. And then you should look towards the floor on your guitar neck. You're going to see the thinnest string, which is actually your top string. Okay, everyone thinks this is the bottom string, this is the top string. So that's one of the first things to get out of the way, is the orientation of the guitar and how it's put together. Okay, that's a really huge important point that I want to make, because a lot of people think that this is the top string, because as we sit behind the guitar, we think that this is the top string because it's like, as we sit behind our guitar, that's the string that's furthest away from the floor. It's actually the bottom string, because if you go to the keyboard, all the low sounds are on the left side of your piano, and all the high sounds are to the right. Okay, so from low to high on your piano, low to high on your guitar, left to right. Okay, so this is going to be an important thing, because as we label the neck of the guitar, we're going to go from left to right. Okay, just like on the piano. So what I'll do also is I'm going to fold this in half, and this is something too, if you get these printouts, which I actually have them on my computer, but you can easily just type in piano keyboard, printable PDF. You can do these things, or if you got a software program that prints out music, you can actually make these on your own. So we have the strings labeled E, A, D, G, B, E. You can use the acronym Eddie 8 Dynamite, good by Eddie, if you want to use that to help memorize your strings. And being that we're at the top here, this is the actual headstock, sort of drawn out bit. So the nut would be right over here, and that's where the strings sit at the top before you get to your tuning machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this information, put it over here. Okay, and again, this is where the pencil comes in very handy. We want to write this stuff out. E, A, D, G, B, E. So that's the first thing out of the way, is labeling the strings E, A, D, G, B, E, which again matches over here at this will be like the 18th fret, right? Also, what happens at the 12th fret, like if you look at your guitar, you have dots or you have boxes on your guitar. These are all the fretboard markers, fret markers, whatever you want to call them. And what they do is they label out where the odd number frets are, the single dots. The double dot is the even numbered fret. And what happens here is that all the open string names are repeated at 12th fret. So that's the very first thing out of the way, is getting through where these locations are. Now, to give you a disclaimer, at this fret location, these aren't the names of the notes at that location. You have to go to 24th fret. If your guitar has 24 frets, you would have the same exact names of your notes fretted up at 24th fret as you do at 12th fret, as you do at the open string location, which is why these letters are written outside of the frets. These are the names of the open strings. Okay, we're in standard tuning. This is the way the guitar is tuned in standard tuning. So if you want to understand how tunings work, getting into this scene is one of the building blocks to getting to the understanding of how lowered tunings work, okay? Or altered tunings, like drop D, for instance, is a very popular tuning that comes out of standard tuning. And then if you want to tune your guitar down a half step, this information comes in handy also. And of course, if you have a tuner, when you play your string and you want to tune down to a certain note, your tuner will just take care of that as well. But apart from that scene, we want to get into the manual part of labeling out all the notes, okay? So this is where the keyboard diagram comes in very, very handy, okay? So we have a system of 2 black keys, 3 white keys, and it just continues to repeat. So we have 1, 2, 3 segments of that on our piano keyboard. Okay. Yeah, basically our keyboard layout. We're not going to use the entire thing, okay? I'm going to use a portion of it just to describe and get you into how things will work as you compare the piano to the guitar. Okay, so This is one of the things that's really handy to see the visual part of piano and then translate that over to the guitar. So there's a relationship in all this stuff, which you're going to see in a second. So the first thing I want to get into is where the notes E and F are on the keyboard. And they're actually right here. Okay, so wherever you have this look on the keyboard, I can easily label that stuff out. All right, I could do it over here as well. Now, this works out on guitar because we're going to label both E strings first. We're going to take care of the E strings. So whatever takes place on the low E string is going to happen on the high E string, or in this case, the bottom E string and the top E string. So E to F is what they call a half step on piano as well as guitar. Half steps are notes that are side by side. In the case of the piano, two white keys without the black key in between. Automatically, we have a half step. On guitar, to move in a half step, we go from open string to first fret, and then consecutive frets thereafter for all half steps. Okay, and this is going to be something very useful to understanding how sharps and flats work. So E to F on guitar is open string to first fret. Okay, and this works out perfectly on both E strings. Okay, so we have E to F on low E string, we have E to F on high E string. Okay, that's how the first two notes work out. So what we can do is we can label our strings straight on up. We're going to go right through the whole thing. So the music alphabet comprises of A through G. Okay, so we're starting on E because we have our E note moving to the F note, E note moving to the F note on piano. The next note after F in the alphabet is G. So all of the notes of the music alphabet are on the white keys. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G is all on the white keys. The black keys take care of all the sharps and flats that we'll see later on. So after G, we get A in the music alphabet because it's the first 7 letters. So once you hit G and you continue moving up, you're going to arrive back on letter A. Then after A comes B, C, D, and there we go. We have a nice little layout here. 1 octave run starting from E, moving to E, right? So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, 7 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, before we go back to the first note we started with, okay? So now what we have is a distance of a whole step, and the reason why this is a whole step is because we're skipping over the black key. We're moving from F to G. On guitar, moving in whole steps, we go from basically the first fret to the 3rd fret, okay? It's every other fret. That's how we get whole steps on guitar as compared to piano, okay? So there's where G is going to be, okay? G to A is also a whole step because we have the black key in between. Because if you move from white key to black key, okay, so as we move from G to A, we have a white key, black key in between. That's a half step, another half step going to A. So we're not going to worry about that. G to A is what we're worried about. So we're going to go from 3rd fret to 5th fret. That's going to be the whole step move. Every other fret is a whole step on guitar, okay? A to B, we have another whole step. So we can go A, skip over the 6th fret from 5th fret, move into 7th fret, and that's where B is. Now, we're back to the half step again, just like we did in the beginning. We had a half step between E and F. The next location naturally is going to be B to C on the piano. So B to C on guitar, half steps are every fret, right? We move from 7th fret to 8th fret. That's a half step, okay? Now, go back to the piano, C to D, whole step, because we have a black key in between the white keys. So we move from 8th fret to 10th fret for a whole step on guitar. And then D to E, another whole step on the piano. It works the exact same way on guitar. Moving from left to right, D to E, 10th fret to 12th fret, we're skipping the 11th fret, okay? So that's the idea, and that's the way that's set up. You could continue on moving through. If you have 24 frets on your guitar, you would have the exact same layout. This would be like back to your open string, but it's 12th fret. So E to F would be right there, and so on. We're just going to cover the first 12 frets, including open strings. So now we can see E string is labeled out. So now we can just simply copy, and this is where the writing comes in. The more you write this out, the easier and faster you'll get at this, okay? There you go. So you have E through E on both E strings labeled out. So now we're moving to the A string, okay? We have A to B, which is going to be a whole step because we have a black key in between our white keys. So on guitar, open string to 2nd fret on every single string is going to be a whole step, okay? So we just want to get A and B. There it is. Open string to 2nd fret, okay? So we took care of that. Now we got B going to C. It's a half step, okay? And there we go. Right there. 2nd fret into 3rd fret is a half step, okay? That's the deal there. C to D. So that's going to be a whole step. So C to D, boom, right there. Now you can see also C to D on the 6th string is the same distance, right? It's 8th fret to 10th fret. We have 3rd fret to 5th fret. That's every other fret, right? We're skipping over a fret to get to D from C, just like we did on the low string, just like we did on the top E string, okay? So that's going to be the same appearance all throughout, all right? You always have a half step between B and C, E and F, right? So now D moving to E, we have D moving to E on the piano. It's a whole step, white key to white key with a black key in between. On guitar, skipping every other fret, right? We're going to skip over 5th fret. Well, actually, we're going to take 5th fret. We're going to skip over 6th fret, land on 7th fret. There is your whole step. Now we have E and F. It's a half step. We know that moving from 2nd fret to 3rd fret is a half step. Here it is again. Consecutive frets movement are all half steps, okay? So now we have F to G, okay? We have the black key in between the white keys, again, whole step, boom, just like that. Okay, so we have 3 out of 6 strings labeled out at this point. Everything is pretty much laid out pretty nicely. We're moving on to the D string, okay? So now D to E, whole step, right? Open string to 2nd fret is a whole step. There is our E location, right? Same thing here, D to E on the A string, it's a whole step, right? We're skipping over the 6th fret to move from 5th fret to 7th fret. That's our whole step movement. So we did D and E, whole step. Another half step coming up because after D comes E. E to F is the next location we want to get on guitar. And here it is. So we learned that open string to 1st fret is E to F. 7th fret to 8th fret is E to F. And then 2nd fret to 3rd fret is E and F, right? We did F. Now we're going to go F to G. F to G is a whole step. Moving every other fret on guitar is a whole step. Okay, consider anything between the natural notes as your black key, right? That's the other way you can think of it too if you want to compare piano to guitar. Excuse me, that's how it lays out. Now we have G to A. That's another whole step, right? We know this from the 6th string, right? We know this from the 5th string. Now we have it again right here. Same exact layout, same movement, same distance between note to note, right? Every other fret is a whole step. A to B. A to B, whole step, there it is, right? We have A to B, open string, 2nd fret, A to B, 5th fret, 7th fret. Now we have A to B, 7th fret, 9th fret, okay? Now we have B to C again, there it is. Starting to see the pattern now, there's a bit of a pattern going on, and these are all natural notes. So what happens is, these get changed off later on, and that's gonna be the next step that we'll get into. All right, so now we have 4 out of 6 strings done, and now we're moving G string. We're going to go from G to A, open string to 2nd fret, whole step, right? Because G to A is a whole step on piano because there's a black key in between the white keys. So half step, whole step. So G and A is done. Of course, G is the last letter of the music alphabet, A through G. Once we hit G, we're moving up on piano, moving up on guitar along a single string. The notes change up again where G is the last letter. After G in ascending fashion, we wind up back on A. Okay, so A to B is the next part. A to B is a whole step. There it is. B to C, half step. C to D, whole step. D to E, another whole step. E to F, half step. See how it's all working out now? So it's a lot of repetition of the information, just that each string is called different. B to C, another half step. Open string to 1st fret is the half step. Right? C to D, whole step, every other fret. D to E, another whole step, every other fret. E to F, half step. Okay? And F to G, another whole step. G to A, whole step. And there we go. Just like that. Everything's labeled out. It's all set up. So now the next step after that is if you want to get into the sharp notes, right? So if you move from left to right, the headstock of the guitar to where the tuning machines are, along a single string to the body of the guitar, right? that's moving ascending along a single string. Okay, so that's where we get the sharp note direction. Okay, so what happens is if we go from the piano again, F natural, to this black key, that's where the sharps are, because if you move from left to right on the piano, covering just about every key from left to right, you're moving everything in ascending fashion. If you cover every single key on the piano, you get what's called a chromatic scale, but the direction is moving sharp because you're moving up, right? So that's the idea with sharp notes. With flat notes, it's the opposite sketch, right? Moving from right to left. That's moving down through the piano. If you move from right to left on a single string, you're flatting all the notes, okay? So say if I want to move from F to this location, this is where I'm going to have F sharp, okay? So I'll put F sharp below. If I want to take the G note and move down, I'm taking G. These are all natural notes, by the way. Everything's natural. There's no sharps, no flats. So this now the next part is discussing how to move in a flat direction. G moving down is going to be G flat. Oop, hello. There we go. G flat, just like that. Okay? And that works all the way up, right? So you have all the natural notes. Keep in mind, if you want to get sharped, you move left to right. If you want to go flat, you move right to left. And that's pretty much it, okay? So I'll leave this open for now, and I would definitely highly recommend getting these printouts just like this, using a pencil and writing everything out. This is really, really kind of saves the day with learning how the neck is set up, okay? Definitely paper and pencil, old school, you know, no applications, no apps, none of that stuff. Let's get rid of some of these shavings. Going old school is really great, and the more you write it, you know, the more it starts to sink in and you retain more. If you're using an application or any kind of app on your computer, on your phone, the retention level isn't as hot. But if you actually work with it in this fashion and physically write everything out and see it, that's where the memorization kicks in, okay? And again, the more you do it, you'll be cranking these out, no problem. You can even just do a blank sheet of paper with a ruler, you know, copy paper, and just make your lines and stuff on a blank sheet of paper and create your own. But you can use this diagram as your reference, and I got a few more here that I can, you know, easily start the whole thing all over again, you know? And I do it in pencil so I can erase it, right? So it's a good way of kind of testing yourself in a way too, to see if you got the information correct. You can go back to an old sheet that you know is correct, you know, or someone will look at it. Like say if you take guitar lessons with a teacher, you can actually spend time with he or she on that scene and get corrections that way. And hopefully your guitar teacher knows this stuff already. So if you do take lessons with a teacher, you know, one-on-one, definitely bring stuff like this in. It's a great way to quiz yourself. It's a great way to get out of playing in the boxes, you know. If you want to learn how to play, say, a C major scale, you can go, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or you can go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Wherever you have those notes, you can completely take a single string, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then if you want to go to C, this would be at 13th fret. So you can create your own way of running through scales. Same thing with chords, right? We have every other note on the piano, C, E, G, would be a C chord, right? C, E, G. You can learn how to play your chords that way too. C, E, and G. Where's our G? Right there. So I can go C, E, G for a C chord, or I can go G, C, E, C. There's different ways I can actually put together chords over time. So this is the start and the foundation to getting all that information together. Learning where the natural notes are first as compared to the piano, and then later on learning where the sharps and flats are, right? So we got F sharp, G flat here. So if you are interested in playing piano, this could help you with piano playing too. G sharp, A flat, and then we got A sharp, B flat over here. So I can use my blank piano keyboard thing to learn where all those notes are too. Okay, so all this stuff helps out quite a bit, you know. And I think the writing part of everything is really, it's again, it seems like old school in this day and age to do this, but I did this tons. I did this on the way to school, on the school bus. I was constantly writing out fretboard diagrams to label everything. So when I got home to play my guitar, I actually would have a sort of a good jump and a head start on all this information and where things were at. A lot of this feels like old school to do this, to write things out, but it's a really beneficial way of actually getting the information together, learning where everything is on the neck. So I did this tons, like I mentioned. Did a lot of this to help memorize certain things, to actually get a better grip on my chords, to get a better grip on how the scales work. All this stuff came in very, very handy. So the old school way of doing things can be very beneficial sometimes, because we do a lot of reliance on technology, on apps for our phones, on apps for our computers, other things online to help us learn this stuff. And if you take lessons, if you actually are together with a teacher, like I also want to mention, bring this into your teacher, and hopefully he or she knows this information. I'm sure they do. Most music stores hire teachers that have some kind of schooling background. For us to get to the point where we can understand some basics, if I want to learn how the cage system works, I didn't learn how to play guitar that way. I did a lot by ear first. Then I started reading music, and then I went into the school system to learn how music works to get a degree in music so I can teach music. So, but before all that took place, I was doing the things I just showed you today. Writing out a fretboard diagram, physically drawing one out, labeling chord diagrams, using chord dictionaries to really get a handle on how the guitar was laid out and how the chords were spelled. That was the big thing. But I also want to do the old school way of, and I keep calling it old school, but that's how I sort of approached how to play the instrument. I did a lot of old school methods, and a lot of it was manual. A lot of it was writing things out. I didn't have applications. I didn't have any kind of app to help me play guitar. I used guitar magazines, took guitar lessons, went through guitar books, did a ton of stuff by ear, figuring out how to play things, and then bringing that stuff into my teacher, and then double checking things. Hey, did I get this part right? This is how I play it. And then I would get corrections if things were wrong. And in the early days, of course, there's a lot of stuff that was wrong that I was figuring out. I didn't have the benefit of going to YouTube and picking something up and learning how to play it. I had to do it all by ear. So that was something that was a really fun, exciting time to learn how to play. But I was still confused about how the neck was put together. And that's why I spent so much time labeling things out, copying fretboard diagrams, writing them out. The writing part, I can't stress it enough. The writing part of everything is so, so important to do, because the more you write and the more you see yourself write out the information, the easier it gets to see it when you look down at your guitar and see where the notes are. You can actually see your neck, your guitar neck, in note sort of capacities. And this is great too to break out of the tablature scene, because the tablature is great. But to get out of that a little bit, or to understand it further, whether so you're not just going by the numbers, exactly which letter of the alphabet is at a certain fret location. And that's really important too, because when you hear music, you're not hearing numbers flying by. You're hearing notes, you're hearing letters going by. So it becomes a recognition thing. When you hear the letter and you see your fretboard diagram and you're playing that spot, that specific spot on your guitar, and it's got a letter attached to it, that means so much more than just memorizing the numbers, okay? That's where tablature kind of falls short. It allows you to play things, but the understanding of what you're playing is very minimal. So there's always different systems and ways, like I mentioned at the beginning, the cage system, the Berklee system, going through tabs, whatever it is that you're learning how to do currently and using to learn how to play something. Going into something like I showed you today is a really, really important step that you shouldn't miss. You should go into just physically sitting there with a pencil and writing things out. It's really, if you haven't tried it, give it a shot, because it's really going to open up some things for you and you're going to see things differently on your guitar neck. So that's the lesson for today. I'll do some follow-ups perhaps. Please feel free to ask questions in the comment section below this video. And if you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care. See ya.